Gary, Clyde Hufbauer is a senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics, and he told me about whether intensifying EU and U.S. sanctions would change Russia's stance on Crimea.
Well, we have to define the goals, and if the goal is to persuade Russia to withdraw from Crimea and de-annex Crimea, that is not going to happen. Not with these sanctions, possibly not with any sanctions. However, if the goal is to persuade Russia not to stir up trouble in East Ukraine so that East Ukraine also breaks off from the rest of Ukraine, then I think the threat of sanctions could operate as an effective deterrent to that action. First of all, Russia says it's going to respect Ukrainian sovereignty, but more importantly, there would be heavy losses inflicted on the oligarchs and on the Russian economy if we had a full press of sanctions against Russia. And that may be enough to deter Russia from provocative actions in East Ukraine.
There are two parts of your report that I want to focus on. One is titled, "Don't Bite Off More Than You Can Chew." I'll let you elaborate on what that means.
Right. Well, you know, Russia is a major power, as is China, and it's very difficult to change the policies of major powers through economic sanctions. There's hardly any success in that realm. Remember, we sanctioned Russia throughout the Cold War. We sanctioned China throughout the Cold War. But we don't think at this institute that those sanctions were very decisive in changing the Russian system from the communist to kind of the current quasi-market system it has, or the Chinese system. So that's one dimension of this "don't bite off more than you can chew." And another dimension is that, you know, keep your objectives in scale with the size of the sanctions that you're putting in place. So modest goals are obviously more achievable than very difficult goals.
You go on to say, slam the hammer and don't turn the screw. I would interpret that from your writing that perhaps harsher sanctions should be in place, but I'm not quite sure for our audience what that would mean. Could you elaborate a bit on what that means?
Right. Well, what that means in this current context of Ukraine is that we do not think that gradually increasing the number of Russian officials who are targeted and their assets are frozen when they can be found, or gradually increasing the Russian companies that are not permitted to do business in the West, we don't think that would be an effective deterrent. We think that if you're going to have an effective deterrent, in this case, the Russians should be advised that if they disturb eastern Ukraine and try to cause a breakup there, there will be, within a very short period of time, like a few days, complete trade embargo, complete financial break, and so forth.